Dylan, you were the first guy on. Why don't you fire away?
All right, thanks. Appreciate it, Coach. Good to see you. Just first and foremost, with everything kind of going on, did you have a collective message to your team about what's going on and kind of expectations during a difficult time?
Well, yeah, absolutely you do. I mean, our priorities, we've tried to make them very, very clear to our guys. First, it starts with their health and their family's health. And then it's the academic component of it, because that certainly is cranked up, especially this week. And then being able to work out. And we've been pretty emphatic to make sure that is that's where our attention is at this time. Now, we're going to lean a good bit, not only on each one of them respectively for the kind of self-discipline that they have, but also they're back home. And I think it's okay for their parents, wherever that may be, with whom they reside, to be pretty involved. They certainly did a heck of a job the first 18 years of their life. They just have an opportunity to get back in that role again, since they're not here under the structure here at the Air Force Academy.
Dylan, you got a follow-up, or you good?
Well, I would just say, obviously, with spring practice finishing up and having that opportunity, is there a continuation in their workout plan or their regimen or things that you hope they'll continue doing then?
We didn't get all the way through spring. We still had practices remaining, but we have provided workout plans. Certainly, to a degree, it depends where you are. Some of our guys have been able to, whether it's in their garage or their basement, construct a rack to be able to squat or to bench or dumbbells, whatever that may be. And yet others, they do have a plan, a designated, an outline that they follow that Getty provided when it comes to some of the running, the conditioning, but also being able to do things that are non-weight bearing too.
Jake Gayden, fire away.
So, Coach, let me ask you this. You got through a majority of your spring practice. Do you feel lucky compared to a lot of other programs where spring practice hasn't even started yet to be able to actually get on the field and have the majority of your spring?
I think truly when you look at the months of January, February, March, and April, you need to have full lifting sessions, just because your team, they got to find a way to become, a little more powerful, how to become thicker. I think especially here at the academy, and you got to find ways maybe where you have practices too. I think you have to have both in an ideal situation. But certainly that's not the case here. I think yet everybody's going to have to work from a different set of circumstances as we move forward. And, and by no means at all does the spring ever resemble your fall. I think those are two completely, I shouldn't say completely, but they are two different rosters. You do not have your freshmen. You do not have the guys that miss spring practices that you're counting on being able to return once you get into the fall too.
And speaking of the fall, as a head coach right now with so much uncertainty, are you worried that we're going to have a football season, or do you feel confident that this is going to pass and we're going to be able to play football come August and September?
That's an unknown. I think that's the biggest thing. And the only thing we're for is for health. However that is, for our country to come back, and our country will come back. But just being able to get out and to mingle and to work and to do it in group settings and team settings outside of our own homes, that's what we want more than anything else.
Thanks, Jake. Brent Brigham.
How much coaching are you able to do from afar? Is there any football interaction that's been going on between the coaches and players?
There has, yet I'm not, by no means is it extensive. You're allocated a minimal number of hours each week. And, more than anything else, and the thing we want to do is I just want to make sure our focus really is on the academic part and the workout part, rather than really being consumed with, a ton of chalk talks or film watching and whatnot. I think especially this time of year. More than anything else, I want our guys, like I said a little bit earlier, I think our guys got to be dialed into no end to be able to get through the end of May. Finals are May 26th through the 29th, and just really, really making sure that's where we're vigilant. So minimal to answer your question.
Okay. And obviously the coaching hours that coaches and assistant coaches put in is well known. What have you heard from your staff in terms of what they've been able to get from just being at home, being with their families in quantities they would have otherwise not been able to?
Yeah, I'll say this, like we had a staff meeting this morning. We all get on another forum. It was Google Hangouts, was our method of meeting. We did last week. There are still a good number of taskings that we have as coaches. And, that involves completing admissions for our incoming guys. Certainly the communication that has to occur with our current players, and then some things that you're able to do in regards to recruiting too. So we're busy. We all have assigned things that we're attempting to accomplish each week, and we make sure that we meet in that regard, just to iron those out and make sure we're all on the same page.
Taylor Kilgore.
Hi, Coach.
Sure.
How are you?
Good.
Good. My question, you kind of just started to touch on recruiting. Where are you guys at in that process, and how have your coaches kind of taken an innovative approach to, find their way to still bring guys in and court guys when they can't show them the academy?
Yeah, we're it's purely via communication, whether it's a FaceTime or a phone call, and then using some of our other methods, texting, DMs, and whatnot. And yet I don't know if that's exactly what we would have done last April too. The difference being, as you mentioned a little bit earlier, is nobody's allowed on campus. And then certainly as we proceed in the back half of April and throughout May, we aren't allowed to be at schools. And so, the dialogue that you initiate is done in other ways. I think we'll be fine in that regard, because everybody's working under the same circumstances across the country. The one thing we would like to have at some point is for these young men and their families to be able to get out to the United States Air Force Academy. And, when is that? Time will tell. Hopefully it can be in the summer, but, biology and medicine will determine that before we will.
And with your current players, is there a running text string with the whole team or with position groups where they are sharing their workouts and kind of keeping connected that way? Have you noticed any of that?
Oh, they do. I wouldn't say it's a complete total team text. Certainly they do it. I think especially within the position groups. And that's a real credit to our coaches. I think especially you look at our 4 new coaches, Del Calcett, Bill Sheridan, Carone Cox, and Jonathan Heimbach. They've been awesome additions that way, and just how immediate they've been in terms of really immersing themselves with our players. That's been really pleasing, and I know our players really, really have enjoyed that too. They're exceptionally talented coaches, great communicators, and but just in general, our players, there are different things you do as position group. Who's the first position group? Like Hottie Confessor says, all right, who's the first person in our position group gets to a certain number of miles in a given week as far as working out. And you've seen a few of the Twitters and some of the social media feeds that our guys have sent out there. It's good stuff. It is. And yet ultimately, we aren't doing it for the attention. Hopefully what we're doing it because it's right internally. And there's something leadership wise that you want to share with the rest of your teammates too.
Absolutely. Now I'm going to ask you to walk us through a typical quarantine day for you. Are you working at the kitchen table? Are you working in the back patio? How's it been looking?
Oh, I'm right here. And let's see, each morning it's get up and get on the treadmill and then get on the elliptical and try to get some weights.
Nice.
I guess if it's a win each day you do it, then since March 10th, we're undefeated.
There you go.
Now we'll see how well we hold to that going forward. Once in a while, trying to help around the house a little bit, but I kind of figured out the other day when I put a load of wash into the dryer and dumped the detergent in there. Right as I was hitting, I was like, oh goodness, that's the dryer, not the washer. So I had to go clean that out. And of course, Amelia has reminded me more than once that if there was ever a Team Jeopardy type game, she'd much rather have mom on her side than dad. So there's been some humility that's been discovered along the way too.
Good for you, Coach. Love that.
Ashley, fire away.
Hey, Coach, how's it going?
Going well.
Good, Coach. Good to hear. Good, everyone's happy and healthy on your end. My first question actually concerns your graduating seniors, the players who aren't on the team and participating in workouts and stuff right now. Have you been in touch with anybody on there and, giving them any words of wisdom or encouraging words, since their last couple months here at the academy is not typical by any means?
Yeah, Ashley, I have, and I can't tell you just how inspiring it's been. For a phone call. Last week, I ran up burgers and chicken nuggets to them, to each one of them. We really wanted to have them over to our home before they graduated, before they left, each one of those seniors. But, we have 30 seniors that played for us this fall. One graduated in December, Garrett Capella, who's now stationed down at LA Air Station. And we have 29 that are on pathway to graduate this Saturday. And to say we're immensely proud would be putting it mildly. And each one of those 30 will be outstanding officers for the United States Air Force. And a real credit to their families and to them to be able to persevere over their 4 years and over the rigors and over the challenge of the United States Air Force Academy. And it gives me chills down my arm, both of my arms, to share that with you too.
That's great. It's good to hear that they're doing well. And now I'm going to jump actually to an NFL question. With the draft coming up next week and you having experience with the NFL and it being completely virtual, thoughts on that process being so different as well this year? Yeah,
I'll say this. I do think so much of your work is done ahead of time. Golly, and really technology, the expansion of technology. I mean, look at us right now. You feel like we're in the room together. Just in terms of the thoroughness of the way you operate in the NFL, I still think we'll see a pretty high quality, at least in terms of the execution of how that's carried forth here in a couple of weeks.
All right. Thank you so much, Coach.
You bet.
Thanks, Ashley. Rob, KRDO.
Sorry. All right. You can hear me, Coach?
I can hear you loud and clear, my man.
Sounds like you're getting domesticated. How much appreciation do you have just for the fam after being home for this long?
Oh, it is. Although it's been a dose of reality when more than a few times Tyler and Amelia want to know when Dad's going to go back to work, and the tone of their voice indicates they want that to happen here real soon. And to hear Amanda all but second it, she won't say it, but I can tell certainly by her actions exactly the way she. So there's been, we've gone through a few, but if anything, I think for all of us, if we are able to be with our families, and that's not the case for everybody, I think especially what comes to mind are troops that are deployed. But if we are, I think anytime you go through certain challenges in life, it makes you closer. The appreciation that you have, I think it's been a good thing. Tyler leaves for college. This here in August, and just the amount of time that he and I have been able to spend together and tell stories and whatnot. I find it heartfelt. Now, he might not, but I definitely do as the dad.
So it's a little bit of a silver lining for you, is just getting that time with your son who's going to be going to school. He's not going to, it doesn't seem like he's going to have a graduation as well.
No, he
How
won't.
do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's just the reality of the current situation that we have. And, the precautions that are in place, specifically when it comes to social distancing, washing our hands, good hygiene, and trying to stay within our home unless it involves some exercise or going to get food. There's a reason for that. And we certainly respect that discipline, and we're all trying to help each other. We are, you are, I am. Right now that is what's we're called upon to do. And I guess probably at this time too, it's only appropriate also just the thoughts and the prayers that go out, especially to the souls that have passed and their families. And then just the remarkable admiration for the courage of our healthcare workers, the ones that literally are on the tip of the spear, the doctors, the nurses, the physician assistants, and those that are providing so many of the essentials that we still need. That's food services, that's trucking, that's parts and services for those trucks. Just how grateful we are for each one of those members of our country, and really that's globally too.
Yeah. I know graduation is a big deal for you. When you have those kids, you recruit them, your main goal is to get them graduated. I'm assuming you'll only be able to watch the live stream. Not that it's about you, but how tough is that? Because it means, and it's so near and dear to your heart, that you won't be able to be there physically for your seniors.
Rob, you've heard me say it repeatedly. We have one goal in our football program, and that's it. That is to see how many of our seniors are able to graduate. And, a year ago, which would have been, the team that played in the fall of 2018, we had 31 seniors, and each one of them earned a commission as a graduate of the United States Air Force Academy. And for the guys that are able to earn that same degree this Saturday, academically, certainly it is one remarkable and amazing achievement, but it's more than that. It's the opportunity to be a leader, to be an officer for the United States Air Force Academy. And you think back to, 4.5 years ago when you were in their home, maybe mom had a little concern, or a family member thought he's going somewhere we don't know that much about. And so inherently, do you as a coach feel a significant amount of responsibility that they've entrusted their son to you? Absolutely.
I've got one more for you, Coach, if it's okay, Troy Garner.
Yeah, go ahead, Rob. Go
All
ahead.
right. If you don't mind, where's Tyler going to school? And also, for you, we've talked at great length how much you love baseball, how much you love March Madness. And I know all these measures are precautionary, but how much you're just missing being able to watch a ball game, or even, the tournament that would have happened, just even last week.
Yeah, we do, Rob. In fact, I'll tell you, ironically, I'll kind of, I think I might, it's rare you can do this, I might be able to answer both questions.
Okay.
We had a practice. Our last practice was on Wednesday, and I was scheduled to fly out early Thursday morning to join up with my family as he was going to visit some schools in the Midwest. Of course, I found a way to tie that in that we were going to go to the Big Ten basketball tournament in Indianapolis, and we had to cancel that flight. And so that just ended up being solely Amanda and Tyler that were able to make that journey those few days. So we're still working through that. Hopefully we're able to go see a couple of more schools here on the horizon. But Yeah, I mean, these are truly, you hear it frequently stated, but these are, times that we've never experienced, at least in terms of this kind of challenge. Now, you do think, there were no Olympics in 1940, there were no Olympics in 1944. During World War II, in terms of baseball being somewhat minimal, in some of the things that occurred, harken back to 9/11. I know we didn't play that week. We were getting ready to play a football game that week when I was at Wake Forest. So this is a little bit different pathway. Yet again, our country will come out of it stronger. We inevitably do, whether it's the Civil War, if it's the flu in 1918, if it's the Great Depression, if it's Pearl Harbor, World War II. If it's polio, 9/11, whatever, we've always come out of an even better and a stronger country because we make some discoveries along the way. And in this case, hopefully what that is, it's a treatment, it's a vaccine. And I think for me to go much deeper in that is beyond the scope of a coach. We will. It's just we're going to have to be pretty vigilant and pretty disciplined here for however long that may be.
Thanks, Coach.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Rob. Paul Klee from the Gazette.
Yeah, Troy, good to talk to you. I want to go back to what you're talking about with your son. And I've found this personally, I'm sure some others on here have too. We miss our parents and we're not able to see them. Well, how would you describe that relationship maybe has changed or adjusted over the last month?
Yeah, Paul, I've spoken with both of my parents quite a bit. And I'll tell you, just some of the deep conversations I've had with my mom. She was an emergency room nurse in an area where there were a lot of accidents. We were in it was the timber capital of the world. And because of it, whether it involved logging, whether it involved at the sawmill, the plywood plant, somebody where an accident occurred on the green chain in terms of pulling 2x4s off of as they rolled down the assembly line there. And there were days where she's the most positive, most upbeat person I've ever been around, the happiest human being with whom I've ever interacted. And yet once in a while she'd come home and you knew there was something that really happened. And so I talked to her quite a bit about this. And in fact, to a degree, she said, God, I wonder if I ought to go back. And I said, Mom, you aren't quite that young. I know you think you are in your heart. But to miss our parents, to be closed off from them. Amanda's mom lives here in Colorado Springs, and just how minimal that contact is because she's involved immensely, whether it's here at our house or with the activities of our family. So that, I think for all of us, I think we share something there that's, especially the awareness that's involved for, those that are over a certain age or maybe some other pre-existing health conditions. That hits home for each one of us, I believe.
For sure. Just real quick, specifically a guy, Gerard Sanders, very impressive individual. He's going to be graduating this week, it looks like. Where do you see this guy in 10, 15, 20 years? What do you think he can become? Oh,
time will run its course in that regard, Paul. I will say this. He is adamant and focused that he wants to be a pilot. And I would not be surprised one bit if that's up in an F-16 or an F-35. And just as you get so much feedback from these, from our guys, and it truly is, I don't know, it's fun to win, don't get me wrong, but there's not a greater joy than to hear of how our guys that have graduated, that have been a part of our program for 4 years, what they do later on down the road. And I look forward with great anticipation and excitement in terms of what that may be for Gerard too.
All right, thank you.
Okay, does anybody else have a question for Coach?
Does anybody else want to go another round?
I would like.
Go ahead, Brent.
Yeah. Have any of your players had been been affected personally by the virus or their families?
Yeah, we have one, not one of our players thus far. As far as we know about our players, we're healthy now. I think, the more we discover about, the virus that's involved here, well, there still could be some asymptomatic symptoms that they do have. Yet right now, not that we're aware. We do have one of the grandmothers. That did have to go to the hospital, but now is back, and she is quarantined from the rest of the family. I'm not going to share that with you just out of privacy. We do have one.
That was a grandmother of a player or a coach?
It was grandmother of a player, yes, sir.
And back to the guys working out, do all of your players have some sort of access to weights? Because I know, like, if in my house, I would not, but do they have gyms or something that is allowing them to lift weights?
Not every single one. Like I said a little bit earlier, there are a few that have welded a rack together, and whether it's to squat, to bench. There are others that maybe have bumper plates, to be able to literally to power clean. And there are a few that are, trying to find ways to hang clean, but not all. No, sir.
Okay. And the seniors that remain at the academy and are graduating, have any of them shared some of the hardships they've gone through just because it has been such an isolated environment? And obviously there has been some of the virus there, and it just seems like it's been a pretty trying time at the academy. Have they shared any of that with you?
You're saying for our players?
Yeah.
I mean, I think, yeah.
At the academy.
I mean, they did not go home for spring break. I think they'll be more than ready to graduate. Going a little bit different direction. But for the most part, their spirits have been strong, yet it's been a challenge. Yet at the same time, I do believe for the maturity that they have and the way internally they have the self-discipline and the know-how to develop personal resiliency, they will take that with them as leaders and officers in the future for the United States Air Force and for their own personal lives too.
Okay. And then one more player, Zane Lewis, as he, potentially looks at the NFL or, a football career, how do you see his prospects as a player?
That I'm not able to forecast that. I have spoken with people within the National Football League that have called us and asked specifically about him. Yet it's not in our peruse. It's not in mine to ask, exactly what that evaluation is. And I will say this, I think he made an awful lot of improvement during his time at the academy. I think the light really, really came on in the middle of his junior year. The way you hear me say it, changed his body. He certainly did prior to his senior year. Physically, he was a different guy. He moved past a back shoulder in the labrum area. An injury that he had, and because of it, he was able to lift. He was stronger. He was more physical. He had more twitch. He had better top end speed. And having played, he was even more instinctive too. And I guess we'll see where that leads. Not only here in the next few weeks, but maybe beyond too.
Would they see him as a corner or potentially move to a safety or nickel spot?
It'd be I think be a corner all the way.
Okay.
Anybody else?
I have one question.
Go ahead, Dylan.
Hey, Coach, again, appreciate you taking the time out. Just on a broader scale here, because we had mentioned Gerard already. I know Jeremy Fedglum had expressed interest about maybe the opportunity to play at the next level. Zane Lewis, you had such a strong senior class, and obviously you've coached on both sides, college and the pros now. Do you anticipate maybe in the next couple of weeks some of your players will get an opportunity or at least a look to kind of live their dreams at that next level?
You have no way to, I'm not inside of a draft room, and I know a good people inside the NFL, and yet at the same time, I don't I just don't think it's out of respect for them to be able to ask, where do you see him? That's not a question I'll ask unless there's something that I really, really think could be career defining, that involves something that they're doing within the United States Air Force. Then I will at that point. Otherwise, I think I'm looking for insider information that's not in my area or should be in scope wise.
I just meant that the ability that they've shown, do you think they could play if they wanted to, given the chance at that next level, some of your players?
Oh, absolutely. And I just say it from the standpoint they're capable, but more importantly, the maturity and the focus. There's a reason why you're going to look at these guys, just like I thought last year's class, we're going to look at these guys in 15, 25 years, and they're going to be some pretty remarkable colonels, generals. This class will have their share, whether it's in the Air Force or whether they go into the corporate or the private sector, or more so just within their own respective communities. It'll be just really, really solid and trustworthy, fine men.
Thanks, Coach.
You bet. Anybody else?
Thanks, Coach. Stay safe.
Okay, you guys too. Take care.